Okay, everyone, welcome to the live case that we will be conducting here with Micheal. So Micheal is our candidate, and I'll let him introduce himself if he likes in a second. Just the way that this is going to work is we're going to run through a live case. We'll let Micheal run through all of it. So I will be the interviewer, he will be the candidate. And then at the end, you'll see me provide detailed feedback on, what he did well, what he can improve on, et cetera. And then we will also allow for questions and we'll talk through any of those. So nice to have everyone here. To give some context, this case is a healthcare-based case. And it has a range of different elements to it that test multiple aspects of the candidate. Just to give you a really quick intro of me, I come from an IT/economics background based on my studies. After a short IT career at Appian, I went to NYU, did my MBA at Stern, joined BCG, and during that time I interviewed with 8 companies, 8 consulting firms, and did not fail a single round. So I've been in the trenches like you guys and successfully come out on the other side. After BCG, I did some data analytics work, and now I'm primarily focused on actually case coaching and also training consultants at existing consulting firms. So I really focus in on the how and the why of doing cases, not just the memorization. This is about how do you actually build out your consulting toolkit and think and work like a consultant. But that's enough about me. Micheal, do you want to give a really quick background before we jump in?
Yeah, sure. My name is Micheal. I'm from Westchester, New York. I go to Cornell, majoring in information science, minoring in business, and really interested in consulting. And that's why I'm here, to get some experience.
Perfect. And thanks for being the brave volunteer. So let's jump in if you're ready, Micheal.
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. So our client, Vets2U, is a well-established organization that runs mobile veterinary clinics, or MVCs, in the US. They've witnessed a concerning trend of stagnant revenues at $100 million over the past few years. In light of this issue, the CEO of Vets2U has brought us in with the goal of increasing revenues by 25%.
Got it. So just to be clear, our client is called Vets2U. They're a mobile vet clinic, and their revenue has been stagnant for the past few years at 100 million. And the CEO would like to increase this by around 25%. Is that correct?
Yes, that's all correct.
Okay, great. So I just have a couple questions just to make sure I have all the information I need. One, in terms of the geography, where they're located, are they all around the nation, spread out through different states, or are they kind of local?
They're actually currently located in the West Coast of the US.
And question just to really adjust their business model, how they make money. Is it they have appointments where they treat pets? Do they have any other ways they generate revenue?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what they do is think like a typical vet clinic. So, there's a range of offerings like checkups, vaccinations, et cetera. They run these, but what sets them apart is that they're mobile. And so what happens is they pack up, they move to areas where, there's high demand and low existing presence of clinics. They run pre-planned appointments there. And when they're done, they move to the next location.
Okay, and the clinics that they move to, they're not their clinics. They go to other clinics?
No, they're mobile clinics. So they pack them up and they
Okay.
reset them up in new
Okay.
areas.
Sounds good. Okay, if I can just get a couple minutes just to structure my thoughts quickly.
Absolutely.
All right, so there are a few areas that I want to cover to help solve this revenue issue for vets to you. First, I want to look into the financial considerations, more specifically the revenue side of vets to you. Then I want to look at the market as a whole for mobile vet clinics. And then lastly, I want to look at the competitive landscape for mobile vet clinics. So first, starting with the financial considerations of increasing revenue, I want to look at two things. I want to look at the increasing number of patients and seeing if that's an issue and seeing how to improve that, whether they have enough marketing efforts to really get the word out there. Since they're mobile, they're moving to different locations. So making sure they're able to communicate to potential patients or owners of patients where they are. I also want to look at a second aspect to the revenue, and that's the price. I want to make sure that the price isn't an issue for the stagnant revenue. I want to make sure that the price isn't too low to the point that vets to you is missing out on easy revenue they can generate, making sure that the price isn't too high where they're missing out on potential customers that would pay slightly less. So really matching the consumer's willingness to pay to make sure the revenue doesn't remain stagnant. Next, looking at the market as a whole for mobile veterinary clinics, I want to look at the market size for this to really see how big of a market this is. It's pretty niche, not really looking at vets in general, but looking at the mobile vet clinics to see what the potential is here and seeing if this is a growing market to really identify if this is a vets to you issue or if this is more generally a mobile vet clinic issue to see if that's why vets to you isn't growing. And lastly, I want to look at the margins to see how we compare to, or how our client compares to other competitors in the industry. Moving on to my third and last bucket is the competitive landscape for mobile vets to you.
There are no competitors.
Oh, okay. Then I guess another bucket I want to look at too is more about the company itself and really the technology and the service that they provide and what sets them apart. More specifically, looking at their software. Is it an application? Is it a website? And their service. I already asked what services they provide, but what really sets them apart? What's their value proposition for their service and their technology? So
Okay.
yeah, that sounds good. I guess I can start with the financial side and the revenue side. And if there's any information about the number of patients they have, that would be great.
I do not have a breakdown of the number of patients that they have.
All right. Any information on the geography of where they're located right now?
They're located on the West Coast. So we have about 10 clinics and they are across California and Washington.
Okay. Do you have any information on the current price that Vets to You sells their service for?
No, I do not.
Okay. So I guess to start off, I want to look at the market as a whole. Do you have any information the market size of veterinary clinics?
It is our revenues, given we are the only player.
For veterinary clinics in general or mobile?
I see. We don't have information on the vet clinic market, though it is quite large.
Okay. So I guess since we don't have competitors, I want to maybe look at some recent strategies that we may be lacking, whether that's marketing, whether they're not getting the word out there. Do you have any information on their current marketing strategy or no?
No information on the marketing strategy, but we are looking into potentially launching one additional mobile clinic. And we're debating between 3 city or location options for this clinic. Those options would be Austin, Denver, and Chicago. In these locations, we would offer checkups, vaccinations, and neutering services. And each veterinarian on site would essentially specialize in a particular offering. If we launched in Austin, we would have 20 vets. In Denver, we would have 12. And in Chicago, we would have 16. And I also have the following information for you.
Okay. So just to be clear, our client wants to choose one of these locations?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So I see that Austin has the most number of veterans. So there's definitely high potential there. With a high percentage number of checkups, while Chicago has the least number of veterinarians, and their percentage lies a lot to vaccinations. And lastly, Denver, or sorry, my mistake, Chicago's in the middle of the road with their number of vets with 16, and they would specialize in vaccinations. And lastly, Denver with the lowest amount of veterinarians, really looking at neutering. So looking at these three categories, do you have any information on the potential revenue any of the categories would generate?
Yeah, I actually do. We know that essentially each checkup vet, in essence, would have 100 services offered per month, or 100 visits. In terms of each vet vaccinating, they would run 200 vaccinations per month. And for neutering, each vet would be able to perform 150 neutering operations. Now, we know that the price for checkups would be $200 per visit. The price for vaccinations would be $300 per visit. And the price for neutering would be $1,000 per visit.
Okay, got it. So you want to look at specifically maybe what the total revenue would be generated in the next year or so? Would that make sense for the CEO to look at the next year? Is that their goal so far?
You tell me.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to go calculate. First, I'm going to calculate the monthly revenue for each city, looking at each of the three categories. And then after that, seeing how each compares to each other, to see which one generates the most revenue. So first, looking at, so first, I want to look at the revenue. And then second, I want to look at also the costs, since specifically for the labor, the number of veterinarians. Do you have any information on how much Vets to You pays their veterinarians?
Why do you need to know that?
Really just to see, since we do have more workers for Austin, and they could potentially generate more revenue, there might be more costs involved since there are more veterinarians. So to really see which one profits the most.
Can you remind me what our objective is?
To increase revenue. So I'll be looking at the revenue for each of the three categories and each of the three cities. So I'm going to start with Austin first. To look at what their revenue is, or their potential revenue, if Vets to You opens up there. So 40% of their visits come from checkups, which means that would be 40% of 100 visits, which would give us 40 visits, and that's each at $200. So
not quite. The visits that I outlined are per vet.
Okay, I apologize. So just multiplying the 100 visits by the number of veterinarians, which would give us 100 visits multiplied by 20 veterinarians, which would give us 2,000 visits total for Austin. So now that we know our client would have 2,000 visits total.
Would they 2,000 visits of what type?
2,000 visits for visits. Just give me 1 second.
Take your time. Set up the math.
Right. So they would have 100 visits for checkup specifically.
Good, per vet.
Per vet, yeah. And we know that 40% of that's going to be 100 visits. Wait, so just to be clear, it's 100 visits for checkups. Can you just I just want to make sure I have this 100% down. So for checkups, there's 100 visits for what specifically?
100 visits per month per vet that is conducting checkups.
Okay. All right, so I guess I want to calculate this by year. So if that's 100 visits per month per vet, I want to multiply for Austin, which is the first city.
Why jump into annualized when you haven't even figured out the monthly? Figure out the monthly calculation first. So for a vet, that is running checkups, a given vet that is running checkups will run 100 per month.
A given vet. Okay, so that would be 20 vets for Austin, and they each do 100 a month.
Please reinterpret the exhibit that you're seeing.
Each vet would do, okay, so I guess I would take 40% of the 20 veterinarians.
Great.
And after that.
And that would represent what? What would that mean, that number?
Yeah, 40% would give us, 40% of the 20 veterinarians would give us what percentage, that would give us how many veterinarians we have for Austin that do checkups.
Perfect, exactly.
All right, so 40% of 20 is 8 veterinarians. And we know that checkups they charge per month is $200, and that's per per visit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there are 8 veterinarians, and they would do 100 visits total. So I'm gonna multiply 8 by 100 visits. That would give us the total number of services that we provide for checkup specifically. That's the total number of appointments that vets you would have. So multiplying 8 times 100 visits would give us 800 visits.
Mm-hmm.
And we charge, or vets you would charge $200 per visit. So that's going to give us, that would give us $160,000 in revenue for checkups.
Great.
For Austin. And next for Austin, it's 20% of their veterinarians are going to perform vaccinations. So 20% of 20 is going to give us 4. That's going to be 4 veterinarians for that perform vaccinations, and there are 200 visits. And so that's 4 times 200. That's going to give us a total number of appointments for Austin for vaccinations. That's going to give us 800 total appointments, and that's at $300 each. So multiplying 800 times 300, it's going to give us $240,000 in revenue for vaccinations.
Great. Per what?
$240,000 in total revenue for vaccinations for Austin.
Per what? Good. Fantastic. So the total revenue per year for Austin would be $19.2 million. The total revenue per year for Denver would be $12.7 million. And the revenue for Chicago would be $2.5 million annually.
Yeah, so looking at that information, clearly Austin would generate the most revenue in terms of these 3 services. And if we're just looking at revenue, if that's the client's goal, then Austin would seem like the clear answer, and not looking at any costs involved with this.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd want to see if this is a 25% increase from their stagnant revenue of $100 million in revenue for the past 3 years. So I want to see if this top option in Austin could be a 25% increase in 100 million. So the goal is here to have $125 million total in revenue, since that's a 25% increase from 100 million. And 19.2 million wouldn't quite get us there. It would get our client to 119 million, which is quite close. And I do think this is much better than the other 2 options considerably. So I do want to see if there are any other ways that our client can generate revenue in addition to opening up their clinic in Austin.
Yeah, what are your thoughts here? What options will we have?
Mm-hmm. So first, just to be clear, are they looking at opening up in one new city, or are they one city at a time?
Great. Yes, we can only launch one city.
Okay. Are there any other potential services that our client can provide besides checkups, vaccinations, and neutering?
Fantastic. Yeah, so in our existing 10 centers, we're thinking about launching an additional service, and this would be radiology and imaging services. So we think that at our existing 10 clinics, we would be able to bring in 2 radiology vets. These vets would bring in 50 imaging services per month per vet at a rate of $500 per service.
Mm-hmm. All right. And just to be clear, you said there would be 2 radiology vets at each clinic?
That's exactly right.
Okay. So we have 2 radiology vets per the 10 clinics, and there are 50 imaging services per vet, and that's per what time? Per month, per year?
That is per month.
Okay. So got it. That is 50 imaging services. So we can assume that throughout the 10 throughout the 10 clinics, it's going to be the same amount of services, no matter the center.
Yes, we can assume that. Yes.
Okay. All right. So first, to see how much revenue this could generate, I want to multiply the 2 radiology vets per the 10 clinics to see how many total vets there are throughout all the centers. So that would give us 20 total radiology vets.
Mm-hmm.
And next, we have next piece of information that each radiology vet would do 50 imaging services per month. So that's going to be 200 times 50. That would give us 10,000 services total.
Mm-hmm.
And each service is at a price of $1,500. So multiplying 10,000.
$500.
Oh, sorry. At $500. So multiplying 10,000 times 500 is going to give us $5 million in revenue per month. So that's going to give us $5 million in revenue per month, just from this.
Can you double check your number? So we have 2 vets per clinic.
Yeah. Oh,
times.
sorry. I made a mistake there.
Okay.
So 2 vets per clinic would give us 20 vets total. So redoing the math, we'd have 20 vets total times the 50 services that they provide each month. That's going to give us $1,000 in services per month.
Mm-hmm.
And at a price of $1,500.
$500 per service.
Sorry.
You're mixing up units here.
Yeah. So $500 per service. It's going to give us $500,000 in revenue per month from radiology.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be 500,000 per month in revenue. And I just want to take a look at one of the calculations I did before, going back to looking at Austin. I calculated per month and didn't convert this to the yearly revenue.
But I converted it for you, right?
Oh, okay. Okay. So then, never mind. I got that down. So that would be $500,000 in revenue. So right now we have $19.2 million in revenue from opening up a mobile clinic in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Now adding this new $500,000 in revenue would get us to $19.7 million in revenue.
Per what?
Sorry, apologize. That's per month, 500,000 per month. So just making sure we have this per year. I'm going to multiply the $500,000 in revenue times 12, because there are 12 months in a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to give us $6 million in revenue per year from the radiology services. So I apologize for that. Now going back to the revenue that we would generate, or our client would generate in Austin, which is 19.2 million, adding the 6 million is going to give us $25.2 million in revenue. So that would get us right above Vets to U's goal of an increase of 25% in their revenue.
Mhm.
So these two strategies together definitely seem like it could get Vets to You to their goal. And in terms of revenue, since there are no worries about costs, are there any options that Vets to You is considering besides these two, even though this reaches our goal?
No other options here.
Okay, that's great. So that is going to get them to their goal of 25% increase from last year in terms of their revenue. Do they have any strategies of how they're going to market these new services, and whether that's opening up in Austin or having this radiology service in the 10 centers? Do they have any next steps that they're going to consider besides just opening up the facilities and services?
Why are you concerned about this?
So we saw that their goal of 25% increase is achieved by these two strategies. So now that that's covered, I want to see if there are any next steps they can do. If there are any disadvantages to these two services as well, if they're considering any risks involved, or just if they reach their revenue goal and that's good for them.
Per our mandate, our objective is to increase revenues by 25%.
Right. So yeah, so those two together would increase the revenue by 20%, and there are no other objectives for them. That's correct, you just said?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Time for your recommendation.
Great. So yeah, so our client, Vets to You, had a goal of increasing
Nope.
their
Oh,
revenue.
pause. Sorry to interrupt. Take 30 seconds. You're allowed to take 30 seconds, and you don't need to recap the prompt. Just state the objective. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
Okay, we'd love to hear your final recommendation.
Yeah. So in order to increase revenue by 20%, I think that there are a couple of strategies that Vets to You could take in order to achieve this goal. First, I think opening up clinic in Austin would be a great idea, especially compared to the two other locations, because I calculated the revenue per year that they would generate, and this would be 19.2 million, which is very close to our goal. And I think this is a great idea because opening up in Austin is nothing new to Vets to You. It's they already provide these services. They're simply moving somewhere else, so it seems very feasible. And next, the second strategy would be to expand their services and go into radiology and imaging, since this would increase revenue just to the amount that our client is looking for. In fact, $200,000 more. And yes, this is a new service, but it's related to the other ones. I think it's very manageable, since our veterinarians are very skilled in what they do already, and this is a very similar and related service. So I think that's very feasible as well. Some risks involved. I know that the objective wasn't for profit, but this is the second thing I mentioned, which is radiology is a new service. So I definitely want to look into how much it would cost to open up this new service, and how much, maybe research there's going to need to be, and how much training there's going to need to be, because a lot goes involved into expanding their services. So really seeing if this is something that our current veterinarians can do, or if we're going to have to hire more, really how much money is going to need to go into training and maybe additional hiring. So I think that's definitely a focus that Vets to You should consider. And next steps would be to look into some marketing strategies for these two strategies that I discussed. In Austin, it's a new place they haven't reached yet. So really letting the public know that they're opened and really educating them about their services and their technology. Online marketing would be great because they sell software and they're mobile or they're online. So that'd be a great next step, really marketing, getting the word out there for their new location as well as their new service. Because right now their current clients don't know about the new service and they might be in need of it. So really marketing and really getting the word out there would be a great next step to take for these two strategies.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. All right, now I'll smile. All right. So there's a lot of feedback, but at the same time, you did quite well. Okay. So I know, so deep breaths, right? You can you can reset now. I know I can be intense. Look, when I'm Casey and I'm doing these case assessments, I'm always gonna test you at all angles, right? So, great athletes, if they're running a marathon, they're going to train in Denver or in, near Kilimanjaro because the sea level is high. If we can handle a really tough coaching, then we can handle the interview, right? So same thing with runners, they'll run up high and then they'll go run at sea level and do great, right? So that's what we're trying to do here with this type of case. I'm trying to hit you at all angles. The number one thing like positive that I saw is, you handle pressure well. And you never like buckled and just like gave up and all of that. Like if I'm the interviewer and I think you're doing well, I'm going to keep pushing just to see if I can break you, right? Because not to be mean, but when you're consulting, that's what happens, right? The client is intense, the project is intense. I want to make sure that you can handle it and go, okay, cool, yeah, like I'm struggling, but that's fine. I'm going to push ahead. You did a really good job on that. All right. So I always love when I see that. You just you made a mistake, you owned it, you moved on. You were stuck, you kept asking questions, right? You were calm, cool, and collected. So good job. That's most important, honestly. Okay. I am going to, let me think. So I'm going to just quickly share my screen and show you, in a sense, what I assess on. And then we're going to come back to it at the end, but I'm going to go through this chronologically as well. So just to show you, this isn't what I actually hand my candidates, right? There's a full assessment sheet, but I just wanted to kind of visualize this here. You've got the intro with the prompt and questions. You've got the framework. You've got case leadership, math, right? Charts and exhibits, judgment and insights, your overall presence, which was excellent, communication, final recommendation. I'll come back and I'll summarize this. Overall score, probably like a 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 basically means, you'd have a 50-50 shot of passing the first round, but I wouldn't be super confident on the final round. 4 out of 5 is great for, you're a couple weeks out from the interview. This is where I would hope you would be, like, I'm not concerned, if that makes sense. 4 out of 5, good, but not there yet, if that makes sense. Cool, you got the foundations. Okay, now let's talk about the case itself, okay? So just to clarify, we're going to go chronologically for the most part. Sometimes I jump around, and then I'm going to kind of summarize and kind of talk through everything. Feel free to interrupt if you have any questions. Okay.
Got it. Yep.
I start off strong. You re-summarize the prompt in your own words in an articulate way. No issues there. You had good questions. What I really liked about your questions is they weren't generic. A lot of people ask generic questions. You were actually asking things that related to this case and were helping you better understand. Most importantly, it's a weird industry. It's a weird topic. To my knowledge, this thing doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
But you clarified, what does mobile mean? Are we renting out and operating in existing clinics or setting up our own? This is so important. Don't just generically go timing. Don't just generically go business model, right? Make sure that you're asking real, genuine questions, which you did. So excellent. Framework, good amount of time. Framework, not good. But here's the thing, no one does frameworks well unless they know what they're supposed to do. You've read a lot of stuff online, which has you memorize things. We're going to talk about this in depth in a second. But the light touch is, first of all, everything is finance, right? Your first bucket, finance. I mean, that is what we're doing, right? We're trying to increase revenues by 25%. So our objective can't be our bucket, right? So, you're like, okay, let's look at ways we can increase revenue. Wait, that's what we're asking you to do. So what's your approach to that? And then your buckets need to be the approach to solving that problem. In addition, right, we don't want generic buckets like finance, market, competitiveness, or competition. We're allowed to use those themes, but we have to tailor it and make it reasonable. Within finance, and I know I said I wouldn't dive too deep, but maybe now I'm carried away. Within finance, right, never ever do volume price, right? Everyone can do volume price. Our solution is not just more patients and change the price, right? Which we found out in the case, and I'll show you what an optimal framework looks like later on. Okay. But what we're doing here is we're not just listing out words because we've read those online. We have an approach to solving the problem. So you need to think about a framework like it's a project plan where you're assigning a bucket to a team or an individual. And at the end of the day, you've got the problem solved, not just words on a page. Easier said than done. It takes a lot of work. We'll come back to framework in a second. Not good, but that's okay. Very, very few people do it well, even if they think they're doing it well. It's the number one issue I see with people. So not a good framework, but we'll talk about what good looks like. Next, good pivot. This is on your adaptability. When I said we don't have competition, right? Wouldn't have been a bad clarifying question, but it's not like you messed up by not asking the clarifying question. You pivot and you're like, okay, well then the other thing I'd like to look at is, well done, that's good, nice, I like it. Small point, don't say the word bucket, just say area I'd like to look at or the next thing or whatnot. So you fell apart when we started. I want to clarify, case leadership is less important in the entry level interviews. Okay, so you know, internship or you know, associate or analyst, right? But fell apart with case leadership. Why? Because the framework was missing, right? When we're trying to drive the case forward, don't try to get away from random specific questions like how many patients do they have. Think about if you're at the job, right? Would you actually go up to the desk of the client and say, how many patients do we have, right? Would you go send off an email saying, how many patients do we have? And then you have to wait 2 days to get an email back? No, you're gonna ask all encapsulating questions, okay? So try to drive those questions up. We'll talk about that as well, but you know, too specific to go number of patients, location, price, right? More so, do you have a breakdown of like what we currently offer and what our clinics are doing and a breakdown of what they look like, right? Like that's better, right? Because you're going to get more. If you ask this level, you have 100 questions you could ask and you'll never finish the case. So there are two problems here. One is we need a better framework, which will allow us to drive the case forward. Number two, we're asking way too specific questions. Okay. But then you pivoted well and you said, are there any new strategies that we have that, you know, we have an idea of for driving revenues? Excellent. You saved yourself there. I would have saved you anyway at that point, but you did save yourself with that question. But then you shot yourself in the foot by saying marketing strategies, right? You should have just left it at revenue, you know, or growth strategies, any options we've identified, but that's okay. So I'll let you off the hook. For the exhibit, okay, so then, you know, that was enough for us to move on. Don't just read out loud the numbers in the exhibit. Summarize the exhibit in a sentence. Make sure that you are clear on it and that I am clear that you're clear on it. And we saw that rear its ugly head later when you kind of forgot what the exhibit was about. You didn't take time to actually internalize it. I can read the numbers. Everyone can. That's not what we're here for. Take a moment to summarize it with a sentence, right? Cool. Looks like what we have here is a breakdown of our vets in each clinic and the percent of the type of vet that we'd have, right? Okay, now we know what it is. Really good job. When you have data, when you get information, there's a few pathways you can take. We won't worry about that, but you went down the right pathway, which was you knew that there was missing data. And you didn't go, okay, do you have like the number of surgeries for each? Or, you know, do you have the price for each? You did a really good job here on case leadership by saying, okay, do you have the correlated revenues with these services, right? What we get by offering these? Perfect, right? Because if you ask specific questions, I might not have that exact data that you're hoping that I have. But you're saying, hey, overall, I have the number of vets. Now I need what those vets get in terms of revenue. And there's many ways that I could provide you data. You're allowing me to do that. So nice job on that case leadership. Okay. Never, ever, ever ask me what I want you to do. Propose. I will counter. Be assertive, right? State it. Say if that works or if that sounds good, but don't go, do you want me to do this? Okay.
Yeah.
If you can, there was only one like verbiage thing that was an issue. The word wanna, just change it to want. That's small. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it if you keep doing it, but want, do you want me to? Okay, so now, then you know what happened next. You lost track of all your numbers. It was chaos. You were flustered. I don't know how your sheet's organized, but make sure, you have math, the calcs separate to the actual setup, and you have a sheet for each section, okay? This was tough. Keep track of your units and organize your math, okay?
Yeah.
Do not lose sight of the objective. That happened twice in this case. In this instance, at the end, you forgot, you wanted to ask about costs. Reasonable to close off the case, but still.
Yeah.
And here you asked, how much do we pay the vets? We don't care yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. The math per vet, a little bit shaky. Here's what happened. You charge ahead on the math without getting yourself organized. It is okay to take some time for math. What I recommend is if you're clear on it, just go and say it, right? Say what the math is. But if you're not, say, I am going to go and calculate the revenues that we can get per clinic. But just before I do that, just give me a second, or I'm going to take a moment to set this up.
Okay.
And then once you set it up, you go, across each of these 3 clinics, I am going to multiply, divide, add, subtract, right? You really lay out what you're going to go do. Okay.
So you can take like 10 to 15 seconds, would you say, around, like not too long, just to set up and stuff?
Here's the answer. You take as long as you need because you don't have a choice.
But it's common too, like it's for quantitative questions, it's fine.
Yeah. If it's complex like this, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of things with cases is going to be dependent on the interviewer, the office, right? Who you are, all of that. But like, if you feel like you can articulate the math well, because that's easy, that particular math is easy, or you're just good at it, do it, right? But if you're if you're not going to do it right, you don't have a choice. It's a false choice. Take time. How long do you take? The time that you need to have a good, clear answer, right? So everyone on these online forums is like, how much time should I take? Well, that's a false question, right? Do I want you to take less time? Yes, but I don't want a bad answer. So take the time you need to give a good, clear answer, and no more. That might be 0 seconds. It might be 5. It might be 10. It might be 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Get it set up. Know what you're doing beforehand. Tell me what you're going to go and do really clearly. Cool. Okay. Don't lose track of units, right? Per month. You were mostly good at that, but then sometimes lost it. Really good job. Really good job clarifying on the math. I think you actually did do a good job on double checking things. And also really good job tying things to the objective. I know I told you forgot about the objective, but in other times you remembered it. So, here you said, cool, these are the revenues. We need to get 25%. This doesn't meet 25%. Objective, objective, objective. It's so important. Nothing is more important than the objective. Great job. Okay. So you notice that there was a gap. It wouldn't get us there. It's a good office, but it wouldn't get us there. Okay. Then back to case leadership. You had some good instincts here. It's really important that when we hit this point of the case, you don't charge on to other buckets. You eliminate this one first. So you have to think of a case like a tree, right? You've got branch 1, branch 2, branch 3. We were down branch 1, right? More ASCs. And what you did is you said, okay, just to double check. I know you said we can only launch 1, but can we launch more than 1? Do we have the capacity? That's like sub branch 1, right? Branch 1, 1.
Yeah.
You're double checking that we're done with this branch before we move on. Excellent. Just check, can we launch more than 1?
Yeah.
The other question would have been, can we get more from Austin than we're currently getting? That would have been your other question that you should have asked before moving forward. Can we get more from Austin than we're currently getting, right? We change the prices, we bring in more doctors, change up the percent, because we're so close, right? We're 5% away, right? That would have been the second question. And the third one, which can kind of be merged with the other, is, are there other location options that we haven't considered? So you have to, optimal case leadership, if you don't do this, you're like, okay, but if you do this, you're wowing the interviewer. I mean, we're talking like knock it out of the park. A new framework in the middle of a case that helps you figure out where to go. And you go, great, can we get more revenue from this clinic than we're currently getting, more than the 19.2 we're so close? No. Okay. Can we launch more than one? No. Okay. Any other location options we haven't considered? Actually, yes, right?
Yeah.
Holistically, this is what MICE means. They're separate questions, but they're collectively exhaustive. There's nothing else in the realm of launch more clinics that's possible. Once we know that that's eliminated, now we can move on to the other part of the case. Cool.
Yeah.
Good instincts, though. You basically asked this, right? Because you kind of said, are there any more services or products we can launch? So good job. You mostly got this. I'm just putting it on paper for the other people to see, right? We need frameworks within the case. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. You kept messing up the 500, 1500. That's okay. You were tired. It was stamina at that point, I think. Monthly versus year as well. You slightly slipped up, but corrected yourself. At the end, right? Like if it's clear that we're at the end, you know, you need to move to the rec. And what you can say, okay, just to double check, do we have any cost information? I just want to make sure this makes sense financially, even though our target is revenues. That would have been fine, right? But you're like really specifically, do we have strategies for marketing of these centers? It has nothing to do with our scope, nothing to do with our objective. Stay with the objective. And I know you were just trying to like fish at that point, and that's okay. But just go, great, I think I have everything I need, you know, unless there's anything else that I should be aware of, such as yada, yada. But if not, I'm going to take a moment to you know, gather my thoughts for my final recommendation, right? So you propose that you're going to go do a rec. In your recommendation, don't recap the objective and be really direct, right? Your sentence was, launching a new ASC in Austin would be a great idea because I calculated that it would be $19.2 million, and I think that's good. Whew, that's a lot of words. I recommend we launch an additional ASC in Austin, which will generate $19.2 million, and that we we open up 2 radiology vets in our existing clinics for $6 million. This will net us 25.2 million, which is above our target of 25 million. Some risks that I see are, right? Just get it out direct. Really clear, concise. Took too long to think about the rec. You get 20, 30 seconds, and you should be carrying it with you throughout the case anyway. And if you set up your sheets of paper right, you've kind of got it as you go. Okay. For risks, you're right on the risk. I agree on the whole profit thing. There are 2 other risks which we want to hit because we want the risks to tie directly to the recommendation. The 2 other optimal risks are, number 1, we're launching in a new geography. You said, oh, we know what we're doing, but we don't in Austin, right? We do in California and Washington. Texas is a different state. Right? Especially healthcare in the US, right? Don't get me started. But you know, we're launching in a new geography. That is risky because we don't know that market. The second thing is we're launching new services. That is risky, right? We're doing radiology. More risky than just going into a new space in terms of the services is that we might crowd out our existing clinics, right? They're probably not that big. We've already got a ton of doctors. If we add 2 more, can we support it? Do we, you know, do we have the space for it? Do we have the equipment? Do we know what we're doing, et cetera? So then the next steps here are to do a full market analysis of Austin and make sure that, you know, the regulations make sense, that our prices make sense, that our estimates are good, and we can launch there, right? And then for the radiology, just make sure there's no cannibalization, and then it's not, you know, ruining our smooth operations, right? Cool.
Got it. Okay.
Now, let me quickly talk about the overall feedback, and then I'll come to questions. The first thing, so the overall was about a 4 out of 5. The prompt and questions, 5 out of 5. You were great on that. The framework, I'm really sorry. I'm really direct. This is something that you can fix, and it's just because you've read a whole bunch of. There's so much bad stuff online on frameworks. The framework honestly was a 2 out of 10, but you can get it to a 5 out of 10 if you just change your mindset on how that works. Realize that this is us breaking down the problem, having a structured approach to solving things. It's a project plan. It's how you would go set up your team. What does that look like? This would have been the optimal framework. Okay. Number one, we need to look at launching additional clinics to see if we can drive revenue that way. Number two, let's look at optimizing our 10 existing clinics to get more revenue from them, right? What we currently do, what we currently offer, how do we maximize that? Okay. Then we need to look at new products and services, right? We could do consulting, we could do prehab, we could do post-surgery, right? We can do hair cutting for, whatever it is, new products and services, and then inorganic, right? Acquisition, et cetera. This is a perfectly MECE framework. So get rid, and everyone listening, guys, you're doing it wrong. I'm telling you right now, don't do financial, don't do volume price, don't do generic market and competition. This is like the biggest weakness I see in candidates. Solve the actual problem. This is a structured approach to solving the problem. I can set up a work stream for the first bucket. I can set up a work stream for the second. In real life, if this were a real client, this is how we do it. Not, I want to look at finances. I want to look at number of patients and price. No, that's not how we do it in real life, right? Try to get to this, okay? Case leadership, really, really good. Again, this is candidate led. So if it's, something like McKinsey, you won't have to do this. Also at the lower levels, you won't have to do it as much. Good job on your case leadership, right? It's basically saying, where am I? And what is the most logical pathway next? Okay. Math, you're probably at a 4 out of 5. You just charge ahead a bit too often, maybe 3.5. You charge ahead a bit too much, just got a little bit messy on the calcs, et cetera. I can see that you could easily be a 5 out of 5 on this. Charts and exhibits, the main thing here is summarize. Don't just charge in, right? Summarize what you're doing. Judgment insights, overall good, right? No issues there. Presence, you had strong presence. The big thing here is like, okay, are you, do you seem comfortable enough? Are you not like folding under pressure? You're holding your own. Communication was pretty strong, but a little bit wordy in places, like that final recommendation, for example. And then final recommendation, we obviously just talked about. Okay. All right. So that was a lot. Luckily, you've got it on recording. I know it's funny because I say you did great, and then I have all this feedback. But imagine if you were you're 4 out of 5. Imagine how much would be missing and wrong if you were 3 out of 5, right? So there's a lot, it's the unknown unknowns. A lot of people just have no idea, right? So you've done a bunch of stuff right. There's so much that people do wrong, right? This is the way to find out. So I commend you for being brave and doing this in front of everyone. I couldn't have asked for, I'll open up for questions, but I couldn't ask for a better candidate to do this with, because you're at the level where you know enough, but you don't know everything. And this was perfect. So really, thank you so much. And I really appreciate how well you defended yourself when I was being a tough interviewer. So nice work. Keep up that, whatever you call it, the confidence or the ability, the mental resilience. Yeah. Okay. Definitely. Sorry. I was talking for a lot there. Any questions?
From me?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
If not, so that's okay.
So like, I know for this particular framework, there is no competition and no market. Like, so 2 questions about that. In general, like, usually I don't ask about competition. I just assume there is. But then if I do ask about competition in like times where it could be obvious that there is competition, like, how do you know when and when not to ask those what could be obvious questions?
Okay. First of all, don't sweat it too much. Okay. Just like in real life, us consultants don't know everything, and we find out things as we go. Okay. The point of a framework is to be flexible and adaptable and adjustable, right? So when we're solving problems in real life, new information comes in and we're like, oh shoot, right? So you will never have a perfect set of questions or framework, whatever. That's okay. So don't sweat the fact that you missed this too much. What matters is how you react. That said, a pretty novel product, pretty new thing here. You can quickly ask, okay, do you have any, is this a common space? I haven't heard of this before. Are there other players here that are doing this? What's our standing or positioning within the market? Just so I can get a sense.
Got it. And the next question was, for this framework, there's no market, no competition really to talk about in the framework, but in general, let's say you have like a revenue, you want to grow your revenue. That was like a different case where there were competitors. Would my framework more be like different strategies, or would my framework more be looking at the market that hasn't grown? Maybe that's the reason why we're not growing. Competitors you know, like in this case, you shouldn't use the generic framework, but in cases where there is competition and you have to look at the market, do you still
Does
do
this framework still apply? Does this
yeah.
framework still apply if
Well,
there's competition?
not this one specifically, but are you going to have to have a
Wait, wait,
bucket
wait,
that's in the market?
wait, wait, wait. If, sorry,
Yeah.
if in this case we had competition, does this
Yeah.
framework still apply?
No. No.
No, it does. It does.
Oh, okay.
What changes if there's competition?
I guess like more specifically, like I'd want to look at the market to see if that was stagnant too. And
Okay,
like
but if the
other
market's
like
stagnant, then yeah, if the market's stagnant, then we should go into other markets, right? But if
competitors are having issues too, like that would be
yeah, so then we
like,
shouldn't
yeah,
launch additional
yeah,
ones, right?
yeah,
And then we should go, okay, let's look to optimize it. If we're optimizing the current clinics, that's a company
yeah,
and competition bucket, right? Because what are we
yeah,
doing here? We're looking at ourselves to see which of these 10 clinics aren't performing, right? That's a company thing, an internal thing, a financial thing. But we're also looking
yeah,
at competition within this bucket because we're saying, all right, you know, competitors, if they're doing well, are they in certain cities we're not? Are they doing a certain thing that we're not doing? Right.
yeah,
And if we're looking at
yeah,
market, we're looking at which markets would be good for our clinics. We're not just saying the market, right? We're
yeah,
saying, you know,
yeah.
across the US where it's good, right?
Mhm,
And also socioeconomic regions of each of the cities, and right.
mhm.
So this is I love your question. Frameworking is a huge topic,
Mhm.
but the main point is this framework, the reason it's a great framework is because it applies no matter what our situation is.
Yeah,
Now, I'm not saying for another case use this framework, right? It doesn't apply.
yeah, yeah.
But what I'm saying is it like take the clues from that case and bring it in,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
You
Okay.
can have a competition bucket. I'm not saying you can't, but when you say competition, say what you're doing with it. Say, I want
Yeah,
to go look at the other players in this market to figure out what they're doing right and try to
yeah,
imitate that versus what they're doing wrong, right?
yeah,
But if it depends on the industry, it depends on the
yeah.
prompt, it depends on the case. So I know I'm not giving a
Mm.
really clear, easy answer,
No, no,
but
that's good. Yeah.
but here it's like this has market, this has competition, right?
Mhm.
And yes, if another case has competition, you can have a competition bucket. Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah,
But make sure it ties in holistically with the rest.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
makes sense.
Keep going. Yeah, great questions. Great questions. That's a hard one to answer succinctly.
Yeah. Um, or is it like for open to like the viewers too, or is it just me asking questions? Just want to leave time.
I'm not sure. So I think
Oh,
no,
okay.
they haven't received any. So
Okay.
yeah,
I
just
just
to
want.
you and yeah, yeah.
So let me just see. I had some other questions. One was, I guess, like this was like my first, like I would practice like a few, like sometimes like with my friends, not like me leading the whole time because most of them are just like framework and a few questions.
Mhm.
Like to know when you're done, you just like once you reach the objective, you said before, just make sure that there aren't any other objectives or any other things you want to look at. Like how to know when you have to propose a recommendation if it's like, yeah.
Yeah, look, sometimes you won't, and sometimes the interviewer will just ask for it. But
Yeah.
when you've come to this clear concluding place, right? We got our revenue
Yeah.
target, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, we're probably done here. And then you cover your bases, right? You just go, I think I'm ready for the final recommendation,
Yeah.
unless there's any other information out there that I should be aware of.
Mhm.
And then you can flag a couple of things, like for example, a cost breakdown, for example, you know, any other revenue initiatives, et cetera, right?
Mhm. Okay. There's
Cool.
a question.
And I see a question come in. So it doesn't make sense to ask about the business model, even if it's one you understand, just so the interviewer doesn't think that you're shooting in the dark. So for that question, I would argue no. I mean, you know, if it's a grocery store, we know. So, you know, I think if it's a clear business model, we don't need to ask. One thing to keep in mind, if we are asking about business model, ask it in a good way, as in don't say, you know, how does this thing work? Say, okay, so we've got these vet clinics. You said they're mobile, right? Yes. Okay, so what we're doing, is it like a typical vet clinic where, you know, people bring in their pets, you know, we do kind of checkups and things like that. And then the mobile side is, do we move around? Is that what's happening? So when you ask about the business model, don't just say, what's our business model? Say what you know, kind of propose and bring in your initial thinking. Okay, so that's important. We also have the question, is too many questions bad? Yes. Yeah, you know, you get a handful, 2, 3, 4. Too many questions is bad, but don't start the case until you truly know what's going on. You're clear on the objective, you're clear on the context and how the company works. So if you have to ask questions to understand, do it. But yes, too many questions is generally bad.
Yeah, so it's okay to like converse about like the business model and like ask like a few questions about it sometimes. Yeah.
Follow up, yeah. Keep it natural, right? But
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Just like you did, right? You were like, oh, wait a second. So, right, that's perfect. That's great.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Cool. All
Yeah.
right. I will, Michael, I'll send you this case. Actually, for the sake of anyone watching, I'm going to quickly scroll through the case just so that they can see. And then I'll just flag one other thing. And then I've got to run to a coaching session, actually. So what we've got here, just for anyone watching, right? This is the coaching. So, if you want to get an assessment yourself and understand, how to do this and all of that, feel free to check out my coaching page on M Consulting Prep. You can watch a bit of an intro video where I talk through how I coach, look at reviews and all of that. But here's my coaching. I have 3-packs, 6-packs, 10-packs. So, just feel free to reach out. This is where I am. What we do is we do an assessment like this, but then we also dive deep into how to actually fix these things. So all of the stuff I just told you, Michael, I would be sending you frameworking videos. I'd send you a recorded video of the answer here. I'd send you math things, et cetera, et cetera. So based on weaknesses identified, I would send you a whole bunch of stuff to work on that. We don't just do assessments, right? We can actually do frameworking, deep dives, behavioral, market sizing, et cetera. But anyway, that's the coaching. Let me just really quickly open up the case itself, just so that everyone can see. Just give me 1 second. Because the visualization helps a bit. And I'm just going to quickly scroll through and then I will have to run. So this is the prompt. And I believe that this will all be kind of sent over. So that's the exhibit that we saw. Here's a sample structure. Here are the notes for the interviewer, right? This is what we offer. So after that, you did it right, Michael. We had the number of visits. We had to go calculate the checkups per month and the revenues per month, right? Then we've got this. This is where we want to use the case leadership to eliminate the pathways, right? Then what we've got is the new products and services, right? And then we've got the final recommendation. Okay, so that just kind of helps visualize things. Hopefully, just with that, people can see a little bit more about what that looks like. Okay.
Sounds good.
Michael, absolute pleasure. You did great. You definitely are on the right pathway. Just work through the million pieces of feedback I gave, but all of these should internalize pretty quick. And yeah, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And thanks, M Consulting Prep, for having me, and looking forward to seeing some of the viewers in the coaching as well. So thank you, everyone.